Welcome to the Slam and Jam here on the Athletic NBA Show. Be sure to go to theathletic.com/NBA Show. You will get coverage of the NBA where you will not get it anywhere else. We have the real story. What's going on in Milwaukee? You want to know the real story? Go check out Eric Name, Sam Amick, Shams Charania. They break it all down. It's one of the most inside stories that you'll get in the NBA today. Go check that out today. With me, as always, is my good friend Alex Spears. Alex, tell me what happened in the NBA this week.
Well, Andrew, it all started last Friday night with one of the biggest wins of the season. The Denver Nuggets went into Boston and beat the Celtics 102-100 after Jason Tatum missed the potential game winner with 3 seconds left. Why was it one of the biggest wins of the season? Because it was Boston's first loss at home after starting the season with 20 straight wins at TD Garden. All hope is not lost for the Celtics, however. For one, they still have the best record in the league at 35-10. They actually followed up that loss to Denver with 3 straight wins, but also the all-time record for home wins is 40, which is still possible. However, their next home game is a doozy this Saturday against the red-hot Los Angeles Clippers. On Saturday, the previously red-hot Utah Jazz began to sputter a little bit. After a loss to OKC at home, the Jazz followed that up with a 1-point overtime loss in Houston, 127-126. The Rockets, who have been sputtering themselves, were led by Alperen Şengün, who scored a career-high 37 points to go along with 14 rebounds. For the season, Şengün is averaging 22, 9, and 5. Now, it has been a rough patch for Houston. They are 2-7 in their last 9, with the only other win coming over the Pistons, and one of the losses being a particularly rough one to the Blazers at home, who are on a back-to-back. Houston is 20-23. On Sunday, the Suns continued their recent rampage across the league, winning their 5th in a row, this time against the new-look Pacers with Pascal Siakam. Kevin Durant scored 40 points in the game, and the Suns' big three combined for 91 of their 117 points.
Ooh.
KD, Booker, and Beal are now up to 262 minutes together, and they have a plus 17.8 net rating in those minutes. The Suns would continue to win after this game and are now on a 7-game winning streak, moving all the way up to the 5th seed with a 26-18 record. For the Pacers, they eventually got their first win in the Siakam era later in the week, an impressive 134-122 win over the Sixers. On Monday, all hell broke loose in the NBA. First, Joel Embiid scored 24 points in the first quarter against the Spurs, and while it was cool, it was easy to wonder whether the Spurs would be able to keep it close enough to leave Embiid in as the game went on. Well, shout out to the Spurs, who did their job, which gave NBA fans the chance to see Joel Embiid go for 70 points, including 24 of 41 from the field and 21 of 23 from the line, and 1 single three-pointer. These 70 points were a franchise record for the Sixers, and as that game is going on, NBA fans find out that Karl Anthony Towns has 44 at half against the Hornets. Could he go for 80, upstaging Joel Embiid? Well, he could have, and he arguably tried, but he fell a little short, finishing with 62 in the game. More importantly, especially if you are Wolves coach Chris Finch, Minnesota ended up losing that game to the Hornets, 128-125. And after the game, Finch said, quote, "It was an absolute disgusting performance of defense and immature basketball all the way through the game. This is what happens when you have this type of approach." Finally, the other thing that happened on Monday, which seems like a blip in comparison, Kevin Durant scored 43 against the Bulls, including a game-winning shot with 1.1 seconds to go. On Tuesday, we got some news. First, a trade. Scary Terry Rozier was traded from Charlotte to Miami for Kyle Lowry and a future first-round pick. The expectation is that Lowry will be moved again before the deadline. The other news was a doozy. Bucks head coach Adrian Griffin was fired despite leading the Bucks, or at least being in close proximity to them, to a 30-13 record. And I hope you're sitting down because his replacement might shock you. That's right, Joe freaking Prunty. Actually, he's just the very brief interim coach. The Bucks' next head coach will be none other than podcaster Doc Rivers, the first podcaster turned coach in NBA history. Now, a lot of our younger listeners might not know this, but before becoming a podcaster, Doc Rivers was a head coach in the NBA, led the Celtics to the 2008 championship, He led each subsequent fan base whose team he coached to the brink of despair after collapsing in the playoffs. On Wednesday, the new look Heat with Terry Rozier made their grand debut by losing to Vince Williams Jr., Gigi Jackson, and Scottie Pippen Jr., three of the leading scorers for this current iteration of the Memphis Grizzlies. The Grizz won 105-96, continuing to be a pesky team despite half of the roster being injured. And for the Heat, it was their fourth loss in a row, which would become 5 later in the week after being walloped by Boston on Thursday night, 143-110. The Heat are now 24-21, falling into the play-in at the 7th spot. And finally, on Thursday night, to celebrate a week of things we never thought we'd see, the Knicks-Nuggets game in MSG ended with an extended clip of Coach Tom Thibodeau smiling and laughing as he sat down at the post-game podium. Now, why was this normally gruff man so happy? Because the Knicks, with the addition of OG Anunoby, are starting to look like a real Tibbs team again. Since the OG trade, the Knicks have gone from the 19th ranked defense to the 2nd ranked defense per Cleaning the Glass. And on this night, the Knicks held the reigning champs to 84 points, beating them 122-84. And OG had a team-high 26 points and 6 steals. The Knicks have won 5 in a row and have moved all the way to 28-17. They are now only 2 games behind the Sixers for 3rd in the East. Also on Thursday, the 2024 NBA All-Star starters were announced. In the East, we've got first-time starter Damian Lillard, Tyrese Halliburton, Jason Tatum, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Joel Embiid. And in the West, we've got first-time starter Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Luka Doncic, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, and Nikola Jokic. All-Star reserves will be announced next Thursday. What a week it was, Andrew. Now, Andrew, before we jump into the main event, I did want to update the listeners on something. We, at Slam and Jam, have, for the last 2 years, been looking at championship contender resumes.
Yes.
This is something I did. I went back to, when did I go back to? The 70s, sometime in the 1971. I looked for qualities of the teams that eventually won a ring. So, for instance, no champion has ever had worse than the 9th best odds in preseason. So that immediately ruled out teams like Dallas, the Knicks, Minnesota, Sacramento, Cleveland. I guess I have to say OKC now. They weren't on my list at the beginning of the year when we did this. No NBA champion has ever started out 1-4 or 0-5. And no champion has ever had fewer than 4 wins in their first 10. Now that knocked out Miami and the Clippers.
Wow.
That's kind of interesting in retrospect.
Wow.
So the next one, we got to update it, though, because it's been half a season. And I did go back to 1971 and look at how many wins these teams had after 41 games. And what you find is that in order to be a true champion, you cannot win fewer than 24 games. So you have to go at least 24 and whatever it would be. Yeah. So, and the 2 teams that did that, actually, it's that goofy Washington team from 1978 that were, well, by all accounts. And then the 2006 Heat. That was the other team.
Interesting.
So anyways, this also knocks off 2 more teams. So say goodbye to, this won't sound that crazy now, but say goodbye to the Warriors and say goodbye to the Lakers. See you later.
Wow.
And that leaves us with only 5 teams, Andrew, who still have a championship resume. And that is Boston, Denver, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, and Phoenix. Phoenix pulled it out there just in this last little stretch. I think they've won like 7 in a row. That got them to 24 wins. They're now 26-18. They're still there, hanging on. So they still have that championship resume. Okay, moving on to the main event, which is the mid-season Slammies. The mid-season Slammies. This is our yearly award show that sometimes I did for the first trimester and then forgot to do it the rest of the year. Sometimes we only remembered at the end of the year. This year we're starting off in the middle of the year, which I actually like better. I like doing it after 41 games. This isn't your dad's award show. Okay, we came up with some fun awards to give out, and we're going to start with Andrew. And you're welcome to go first, unless you chose my same stat and don't steal it from me. The most shocking stat award. So this is the stat from this first 41 games that when you found it, it shocked you, terrified you, frightened you. What was it?
Yeah, I found this today, and I'm having a hard time even comprehending it.
Oh, great.
And it's and I like kept sorting it over and over again. Like that can't be right. Kevin Durant in the restricted area is shooting 84%.
Wow.
80,
84.
84. There's like nobody else. Like so the first thing I saw was Kawhi Leonard, who was shooting 79% in the
Also
restricted
good.
area, which I thought, wow, there can't be another forward doing anything close to that because it's an absurd stat. But then I found Kevin's 84%. It's like he's stealing percentage points from the mid-range because he's like 45% from the mid-range, which is like way down from where he normally is.
So this is specifically in the restricted area?
In the restricted area on 3 attempts per game.
That's usually like only guys who dunk. That's like all they do.
Yeah,
You
like
know, like
just
usually it's like
compare.
DeAndre Jordan or something like that.
Yeah, to compare guys on his own team. Yusuf Nurkic, 59%
Yeah.
in the restricted area. Drew Eubanks, who just basically dunks only, 71%. I mean, it's a wild stat. Like pick a big man that you think this is just a dunker.
Pick a big man.
They just
pick a big man.
That's what they do.
I'm actually looking at some big men right now. Derek Lively, who I think of him as like just lobs.
Yeah.
Even he's shooting 80.4%.
Yeah. Kevin is better. Jared Allen, thought of as like a dunker. 73%, which by the way is good.
Very good.
But it's not 84% that Durant is. I mean, that just it blew my mind what he's doing in the restricted area. Even like Giannis is another one that you think of, you know, who just absolutely destroys in the restricted area, and Durant is just an absolute killer there. I mean, it just blew my mind that he's shooting that good. Giannis is 77.9%, which is really good, and it's on way more attempts. It's like 4 times the attempts, you know, that Durant is. You know, he's 12 attempts per game, so it would make sense that it would be less than 84%. And maybe if Durant could still get to the hoop with more regularity, it wouldn't be as good. But boy, it blew my mind.
Shout out to me. Now that I'm looking at it, Derek Lively is like the next guy, basically on those same amount of attempts on that list.
Yeah.
Well, that's great because you're talking about one end of the spectrum. I'm going the other way at the rim. Among all players in the NBA who take at least 2 attempts at the rim per game, you filter out the guys who only played a game or 2. So we're talking over 200 players still. Tyler Hero is dead last in rim percentage at 42.1%. 42.1%. Now, there's a couple things that make this stat so interesting. First, let me read you the same stat for Tyler Hero in every other season of his career. Last year, 64.6%. The year before, 61.5%. Keep going back, 64.5%. His rookie season, 56.4. Okay, finally it dips a bit, but still, for the last 3 seasons, Hero has been incredibly consistent at the rim. And then all of a sudden, it falls off a cliff. Yeah. And that's just the first thing that is interesting. The second thing that's interesting is if you step back a few feet into what NBA.com calls in the paint non-RA zone. So we're in the paint, but not in the restricted area. Of the 32 players in the NBA who take at least 4 attempts per game in that range, kind of like the floater range, Tyler Hero is ranked 4th at 52.6%, behind only Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, and Kawhi Leonard. He's ahead of guys like SGA, Booker, KD, Embiid. He has simultaneously been the worst finisher at the rim this season, while also having one of the best seasons from floater range. It's incredible, and that's why he gets this award, Most Shocking Stat Award. So congratulations.
It's very shocking. Shockingly bad. Shockingly bad.
Shockingly bad. Okay, next award, Fine, I Was Wrong award, which goes to the preseason take we are reluctantly giving up. And for me, it's Yusuf Nurkic. Because, listen, I understood the argument for why it made sense to trade DeAndre Ayton. You know, things were beyond repair with DeAndre. And on the court, Nurkic was going to provide more passing ability, which the Suns needed. But I was still extremely dubious, Andrew, that Nurk was going to be the level of player that the Suns would need. I had real concerns about his durability. Well, through half of a season, the only Phoenix Suns player to play in every single game has been, you guessed it, Yusuf Nurkic,
Wow.
all 42 games. And while his scoring hasn't been amazing, he's shooting under 50% from the field, not great. He's rebounding the ball great. He's averaging 3.5 assists per game. And when he's on the court, the Suns hold teams to 8.2 fewer points per 100 possessions, which leads the Suns and is in the 95th percentile in the league. And if you go over to dunksandthrees.com, his defensive EPM plus 2.3, the guys immediately around him on the list, Chet Holmgren, Bam Adebayo, OG Anunoby. That's where he is with defensive EPM. All things considered, Nurk has been an incredibly steady presence for a team that has desperately needed a steady presence through the first half of the season. And for that reason, I'm happy to give him my fine I was wrong award. Congratulations to Yusuf Nurkic.
Al, we try to pick a surprise team every year. And
yeah,
in the past, I've done pretty good. I picked maybe the most shockingly bad team in the league, like one of the most shockingly bad teams. I picked the Wizards.
The team I picked has one more win than your team.
Be the surprise team. I know.
I can still hold it over you.
I know. And that team actually has a worse net rating today, thanks to the big
go back to what you were talking about.
Wimpy Chet showdown. But the team I picked has 7 wins right now. Bad. Negative 9.1 net rating. I thought they could surprise. I thought they could shock the world and win more games than people thought they could. But no, they are 7-37 currently, and just they didn't fire their coach. They told their
promoted
coach
him in some ways
to take a different seat and having Brian Keefe come in. It's not good, Al. I mean, almost everybody has underperformed to them. I guess the only thing that's good is we got Bilal Coulibaly, doing some stuff. But other than that, it has been rough, and I was very, very wrong about the Zards.
This is a very niche stat, but maybe the most shocking thing about the Wizards is that Jordan Poole you can find him on the waivers in some fantasy basketball leagues. That is truly crazy, because coming into the season, people were thinking all right, Jordan Poole, he's going to get all the usage he wants.
No.
He might score 30 a game. Who knows?
Yeah.
And it's been really rough. And I did pick him up off of waivers, and I keep waiting for it to turn around. Hasn't exactly happened yet, but he has been slightly better lately. Okay, next award, Midseason 7th Man of the Year award. Now, this is just a dumb award I made up. Has no meaning. I'm not trying to make a point about anything. It means nothing. But to pick a person, they have to be outside the top 6 in minutes per game on their team. That's the only qualifier. Because, 6th man of the year, some of these guys, they're playing 32 minutes a game. I want to find someone deeper on the bench. So I sent you a list of names. I went through all the teams, kind of picked out some names I thought could maybe qualify. Who did you end up going with? I have a feeling I know who, but who did you go with?
I feel like this is cheating a little bit, because I think this guy could actually win the 6th man of the year, but I'm going with Naz Reid.
Naz Reid, yeah.
From the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's been amazing for them. He's shooting 41% on 5 attempts from 3 this season. He's a pretty good rebounder. He's become even a better playmaker. He's improved his body a lot since he came in the league, so he can defend lots of different kinds of players. He's a fan favorite. I mean, they love him in Minnesota. And so I got to go Naz Reid. It's been the year of Naz Reid.
It's a great pick. I was talking to Dane Moore today on the Dane Moore podcast, and just talking about how much that team struggles offensively because of the lack of spacing, and having someone like Naz Reid, how important he is, even on a team that still doesn't have spacing, even with Naz Reid. But if they didn't have Naz Reid, it would be so much rougher.
Oh yeah.
So he's critical to that team. Some of the other names I sent to Andrew just to peruse: Sam Hauser, Sam Merrill, Goga, Isaiah Joe, who actually is who I thought you might take.
Yeah.
Peyton Watson, Kelly Olynyk, Jonathan Kuminga, Russell Westbrook, Derek Lively, and then the player that I decided to go with. Now, I did come down to this player or Naz Reid.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad I went with the other player so that we can talk about someone else, and that's Dante Exum. Now, he has been out of the lineup for a bit. I do not have a games requirement for my seventh man of the year award, midseason award. He has played 31 games. But I wanted to pick him just because, man, I had thought that I would never think about Dante Exum again. You
I know.
know, like
What a great story. Yeah.
I remember that draft, and I remember the way that how excited like people were about Dante Exum because he really was like that year's man of mystery. It was
Yeah.
very exciting. And then things just didn't turn out well. He goes overseas, and I just honestly just kind of forgot about Dante Exum. And for
Mm-hmm.
him to not just show back up into my life, but show back up and play a critical role on what is going to be a playoff team is super impressive. And basically any of the advanced stats like really love Dante Exum. Like the his on-off numbers for the Mavs have been incredible. I went on pbpstats.com. So these are really fun. You can go and put like, however many players you want. It'll show you their net ratings with a couple guys off, a couple guys on. So Luka on, Dante Exum, Kyrie Irving off, over 500 minutes, net rating of -6, Andrew, -6. Okay. Luka and Kyrie on, but no Dante Exum, a -1. Well, now you add back in Exum and Luka, no Kyrie, plus 5.4. This one's really funny. Now, this is only 150 minutes, so it doesn't mean anything. It's small sample. Dante Exum on, Luka and Kyrie off, plus 7.36. He's just been so important to their offense. He's been like an incredible shooter. Have you seen his shooting stats? I mean, that was the thing back then, like when he was drafted, if this guy could ever learn how to shoot, but don't get too excited, probably won't happen or something. He's shooting 46% from three. Now he's only taking 2 a game. He's only playing 19.5 minutes per game, but that's why he's the 7th man of the year. I just think he's been so helpful to that team, and that's why I wanted to reward him. I also considered Derek Lively, who I was actually surprised was in this range, like could qualify for it. But I think Isaiah Joe's a great option.
Yeah.
Sam Merrill, I looked at it hard because he has been crazy over this last stretch. But
Yeah.
I'm looking for guys who've been doing it the whole season. Okay, Andrew.
Even the other Sam Hauser.
Sam Hauser been great as well. Next award, first half League Pass Team Award. Now, I was debating whether to lie when giving this award or actually give it to the team that I spent the most time watching through 41 games in the non-Thunder category. And I've decided to tell the truth, Andrew.
Okay.
Which is why my first half League Pass Team Award goes to the Detroit Pistons. Now, there are a lot of factors here. First, Detroit's games are always on first. Everyone knows this. Out here on the West Coast, they come on at 4 p.m. And, I'm usually like wrapping up work stuff. I just got in the habit of just turning on the Pistons games. I drafted Asar Thompson on my fantasy team, and he started playing well. So I was like, I need to tune in, see how he's doing it. And then there was the streak and that intrigue that slowly built over several weeks until watching the Pistons became almost as important to me as watching Thunder games. Yeah. And my lowest point, besides betting on them against the Wizards, which they lost by 19, was the December 28th game against Boston that went into overtime. Yeah. Because I was home for the holidays with family that I don't see but once a year. And I was in the corner staring at my phone, cracked screen, simultaneously rooting on, but also secretly rooting against a 2-29 team. I'd become as obsessed with watching the Pistons lose as the Pistons were with losing, but I wouldn't trade it for the world, Andrew. It was a genuinely memorable ride. There's so many great Pistons accounts on Twitter that I found through this experience. I feel invested in what this team does next. So how could I not give them my first half League Pass Team Award?
I'm going to go with a probably a little bit more popular pick.
Okay.
With the Indiana Pacers. And it was one of their in-season tournament games that just was like the first time I was like, oh my gosh. It's when they played the Atlanta Hawks and beat them 157-152.
A classic.
We're just like, what? Like genuinely what is happening here? It wasn't they've scored 150 3 times, twice against the Hawks, once against the Spurs. And then I got to see them in person against Milwaukee at the in-season tournament in Vegas, and they were just electric. Like they're just such a fun team. Halliburton is just one of the most fun players to watch, and they have a really fun cast of characters around those guys. You know, it's got to be them for me. They're also an East Coast team, so we watch a lot of West Coast basketball, and so to just flip on and like casually watch a league pass team, like to me, it had to probably be an East Coast team because on most nights we're watching Thunder basketball for West Coast time, but Indy. I just love watching Indy. Also great uniforms. Also great court. In-season tournament court. I kind of miss the in-season tournament courts.
Oh. Okay. Next award. Bold prediction for the second half of the season award. So, Andrew, what is your bold prediction for the rest of the season?
Oh man, bold prediction. It's tough to come up with something like super bold when you
disagree.
Take a look at what's going on here with the league. But I will say, I think the Utah Jazz will finish ahead of the Lakers and the Mavericks in the Western Conference.
Oh, the Mavericks. Okay, that's juicy. That's a juicy one. You don't believe in Dante Exum, my seventh man of the year?
After your seventh man speech, I'm way against it. So yeah.
Okay, I like that. All right. So, in my opinion, for a prediction to truly be bold, you should not feel comfortable saying it. Okay.
Yeah.
If you aren't uncomfortable,
Lakers, I did not feel comfortable saying.
Good.
Yeah.
That's how you know that's bold.
Yeah.
So with that, my second half bold prediction is that the Detroit Pistons will win more games than they won last year. Now, as a reminder, they won 17 games last year, which means they need to go 13-25 the rest of the way. They have 5 wins right now. But 13-25, that's only a 28 win pace, Andrew. Is that so crazy?
Yeah.
I'm not asking them to go
5-39. It's pretty crazy.
No, I'm not asking them to go 500.
You should be taken as a compliment. It is bold.
Well, there's some early returns that suggest this team is turning a corner. Over their last 5 games, in which they've gone 2-3, they have the 10th ranked offense per clean the glass, 119.9 points per 100 possessions.
Okay.
And I know what you're saying. Weren't those 2 wins against Washington and Charlotte? Yes, but shut up. Charlotte just beat Minnesota.
Yeah.
And Washington. So Troy Weaver finally did the bare minimum, and he traded for Mike Muscala, a guy who most would consider a fringe NBA player.
Yeah.
Who also happens to be exactly what Detroit needs right now. And this team already looks way more functional offensively. And when Cade gets back, he's now coming back to a team, Andrew, that has so much more spacing than it did. We got Muscala. We got Monty Morris. He's back. Alec Burks learned how to shoot again. He's shooting 46% from 3 since Cade went out. A sprinkling of Gallo. Maybe another small trade, medium-sized trade. I don't know. I'm not asking this team to do anything crazy, okay? I'm asking them to play at the pace of a 28-win team the rest of the season. That's it. And I think finally, once Cade's back, they have the offensive pieces to put a solid offense on the floor every night and win enough to get to 18 games. They will finish ahead of the Wizards.
Wow.
What do you think about that?
That's pretty bold.
They're actually only 2 games back of the Wizards. That's actually not that crazy.
Yeah. That's not that bold of it. But they also will likely make some more deals as they get closer.
See. I'm factoring that in. So
yeah.
I wonder if are there like mid-season over-unders that you can bet on? Like, is there if would Vegas put their over-under at like 12.5 right now or something?
I don't know. That's a great question.
I would slam that over.
I don't know.
All right. So that was our individual awards. These next couple awards are group awards, Andrew, which means we have to agree on the winner. Now, I think some of these will be easy for us, but some might be tough. First, we're going to do the first half major awards.
I have a mid-season over-under line at 11.5.
Oh my God. 11.5? Are you kidding?
Not kidding.
Oh my gosh. I'm liquidating my account tomorrow, putting it on the Pistons over. Okay. First half major awards. The caveat is that you can't pick the favorites. So for instance, we are going to pick our first half MVP, but you can't pick Joel Embiid. Okay,
Mhm.
you can't do it. Now this
Mhm.
one, let's be honest, we're going to pick Shea. We're Thunder fans. We
Yeah.
we 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 think he deserves it. We
Yeah.
really like him. He's
Yeah.
been great. They're the number one team in the West. You could make a very compelling case for Jokic, obviously. But let's
Sure.
just move along because we both know we're going to pick Shea. Okay. The coach of the year, Andrew.
Say anything?
Huh?
We don't even get to say anything. I mean, go ahead. It's fine. You can
No.
go listen to me on the Game Theory podcast with Sam Vecini. I make the case for
Boom.
Shea to win it.
And
So
and also you were you talking about him on tampering today as well.
yeah, true.
Yeah, quit talking about him. Okay, coach of the year, you can't pick Mark Dagnall. Thank God. Who would you like to nominate for coach of the year, Andrew?
I mean, Chris Finch has been amazing for the Wolves.
He has, and he is number 2 in odds.
Yeah.
May I make a case for one other guy who I was on BetMGM? He's not even on the top 10 list.
Really? Will Hardy?
No, although that's a pretty good choice as well.
Yeah.
JB Bickerstaff.
Oh,
Because this Cavs team, he lost 2
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they're not all because MMO's not made an all-star game, but he's lost 2 starters.
Yeah.
One of whom was an all-star, and this team has been one of the best teams since that point.
It's true.
And they are a home court advantage team as of right now. I know the Knicks are very close there as well. I just think he deserves a ton of credit. You have to give him some of the credit for helping manage this team. But I also think that the Timberwolves have been one of the stories of this season, having the best defense in the league. They've been very, very good. And I think that his task, I mean, it's very hard coming back from 2 starters being out, but Finch's task of trying to figure out the Gobert thing after what happened last season and finally figuring it out and making it all work, I think that is very deserving.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of people thought they'd have to make a move.
Yeah, absolutely.
To trade Gobert, and then you basically lose asset. I mean, it's just it could be disastrous. But instead, they're right there with the Thunder for number 1 in the West.
Next one, most improved player. You can't pick Tyrese Maxey. Who would you pick?
I actually would pick Scotty Barnes.
Okay.
Scotty Barnes. Well, one, he has improved from last season to this season. I also think Kobe White is like the other, like really who I think has a chance to win it. But Scotty Barnes, 15 points to 20 points per game. He's taking on more offensive responsibilities. He's averaging career high in points, assists, rebounds, and steals and blocks this season. He looks like a player that could be a franchise guy, which last season he had taken maybe a small step forward, maybe a small step back, depending on who you talk to. I think he's taken a massive step forward. His shot looks better. He's making more threes. He's shooting more threes. He's taking 5 threes per game at almost 37%, which is just really good for a player like that. So Scotty Barnes going from like good player to like a guy that you feel like is a pillar of your franchise. To me, it's a tough step to take, and he's done it this season.
He made my Final Four. The others in my Final Four, I wanted to mention Şengün because he's been great, but I would argue that a lot of his improvement was just his team deciding to play him and
his coach deciding he was a good player.
Yeah, basically. So I don't like. I think Şengün was probably that player last year or close to it. He obviously has improved, but also they're running the offense through him. They're doing the things they should have been doing this entire time. So I don't want to give it to him. J-Dub, he's been great, but he's a second-year player.
Yeah,
he should get better. Don't want to give it to him. So it came down to me to Scotty Barnes and Kobe White. The reason I went Kobe White is because even though I talked about him in the second half of last year saying, oh, this guy's really coming along, like he's making a pre-leap, I never imagined in a million years that this would happen in year 5 for Kobe White. Like there's a thing with young players, and it's unfair because we've seen it with like Markkanen, where like if it doesn't happen by year 3, you kind of check out a little bit and you like reduce your expectations for that player. And that had certainly happened with me and Kobe White. So I just love those stories when a guy like in his 5th or 6th year just explodes out of nowhere. Like when Julius Randle, when it happened with him, where a guy later in his career just kind of breaks out where he's still young. Like it makes sense that he would get better, but he breaks out to such a degree that it surprises you. His shooting has been incredible. His playmaking has been great. And the way that he carried that Bulls team for a lot of that stretch, like immediately after Levine went out, and has still continued to be a good player, even as Levine has come back in the lineup. That's why I opted for Kobe White.
Yeah.
What do you think? We have to decide.
I mean, in the last 15 games, he's 21-5-5, which
Yeah.
did you ever think he would have a 15-game stretch where he would average something like that? Yeah.
No.
Let's give it to Kobe White. Let's give
All
it to
right.
The improvement is striking. Like, I think you could have reasonably thought that Scotty Barnes would get better. Kobe was more out of nowhere. Yeah.
Next, easy one, Rookie of the Year. Wemby is now the favorite. So, listen, this isn't even homery. We're going with Chet, okay? We don't really have to talk about it. We're not going with Jaime. All right, we're going with Chet.
No, it's a battle between those two, and it is crazy because these are both like generational players, and I feel like you can pretty safely say that for both of these guys. They're both incredible, and the arguments back and forth have just gotten ridiculous. And I dipped my toe into that yesterday, and boy, those waters are boiling hot, Al. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. See, I prevented all this by drafting Wemby in the second round of my fantasy draft, which some thought was crazy at the time. But as he gets better, I've just been proven more and more smart. So I feel great. Okay, Defensive Player of the Year. You can't choose Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
I wonder if we're going to choose the same guy. Let's say his name. I'll say 3, 2, 1, and then we'll say his name. Okay.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Anthony
OG
Davis.
Anunoby. Oh, okay.
I like OG. I actually talked to Vicini about this too, and he kind of swayed me away from it. In that, OG just wasn't that good for the Raptors. If it were just like OG on the Knicks, I would be totally in on this, and may even start to try to argue that he should be the Defensive Player of the Year. Period. And maybe we'll get there if he plays like this the rest of the season. But with the Raptors, it just wasn't this good.
That's true. That's a very good point. The one thing I just did want to mention, like, it is pretty amazing that he goes to this team, and within 12 games, they go from the 19th ranked defense to the 2nd ranked defense in the league.
I know. And just watching him at his size, defending, all the best players on the other teams. I mean, he's the perfect addition to that team. He's been unbelievable. And maybe if he does this the rest of the season, I think he'll probably make all defense and then probably wind up, second in voting. And I think he deserves it. But Anthony Davis has been really, really good for the Lakers, and I think they would be rudderless without him. He's got a massive job on defense, and he's been healthy. And so I want to give him credit while I still can, because it feels like
because you feel the OG train coming, and it's going to overtake him.
I mean, maybe, but I also
did you see? We're recording on Thursday night. The Knicks beat the Nuggets tonight, 122-84. OG had 26 points, 6 steals, and there's a very funny clip, a little 7-second clip of Tibbs sitting down at the post-game press conference, like smiling, nonstop, just like giggling. He was giggling. He was so happy. I mean, why? You got to give it to OG for that. Look what he's done to Tibbs. He's made him so happy.
Yeah. I will give it to I'll give it to OG just because I do believe in him keeping this up throughout the rest of the season.
He does have to keep doing it, because now it's been 13 games. That's still not very many games. But if we get to the end of the season and he's had this effect over like 55 games, that would be incredible. I mean, they'll be the number 1 defense in the league. Yeah, they'll probably continue going up the East standings. That would really make his case strong. This is a little preemptive.
Maybe he could actually win it too.
Maybe that'd be fun. Last one, 6th man of the year. You can't choose. Did you even know that Tim Hardaway Jr. was the favorite?
I did know this. Yes, I did. I looked it up.
The guy I went with is the guy who I thought was the favorite, which is Malik Monk.
Yeah.
I know the Kings have been in a little rough patch. But you can't deny the improvement as a playmaker that that we've seen from Monk this year. Mm-hmm. And he's just been so huge for this team at a time when so many of their players were going through various slumps, whether it was like Harrison Barnes not looking good at the beginning of the year, Kevin Huerter having so many issues. Keegan Murray, even at the very beginning of the year, was really struggling.
Yeah.
He has been like so important for them off the bench and in closing games. He's had huge moments. I think he's like your classic six man. Classic six man.
He's classic.
Give this award to.
Other guys I would consider Norman Powell, who's been
he's shooting like 45% from three or something.
Yeah, 45% from three on like 5 attempts. I mean, he's been really, really good for them. Jordan Clarkson is another classic six man. But I'm with you, Malik Monk. Give me Malik Monk.
Okay, the next one we have to agree on. Master of Illusion Award, the team whose record is most deceiving. So this could go either way. It could be a team whose record's worse than you think they are, or a team that's record is better than you think you are. They are.
I mean, the easy one is Milwaukee, right?
The easy one is Milwaukee, yes.
Can we even count that at this point?
I mean, I didn't pick them.
Yeah.
Because Doc's coming in there.
Yeah. Doc's coming in there.
Maybe they'll turn things around. But I agree with you. Like everyone kind of knows that.
Yeah.
So, did you have any other teams though?
I mean, I thought about Phoenix.
Exactly.
Too.
That's who I went with. Phoenix.
Oh.
Yeah. They're 26-18. They've won 7 in a row.
Point differential is not anything to write home about. I don't know.
It's not. It's all an injury thing. Because if you like look at the minutes that their best guys are playing together, they're just destroying teams.
Yeah.
And they're now healthy for the longest stretch, and they've been unbeatable over these last 7 games. And they've had some good wins in there. So I think it's deceiving because if these guys had just been healthy from the beginning of the season, I think they're in that conversation with like what we see as that top tier, which is, OKC, Minnesota, Denver, and the Clippers. Like I think. I mean, they're at 26 wins. It's not like they're that far behind those other teams. So if they stay healthy, I think this team is going to be right there at the end of the season. And as I mentioned, they still have their contender resume.
Yeah, they do. I'm less of a believer. I'm almost an opposite believer in the other direction.
An opposite believer. Interesting. A non-believer?
I'm a non-believer.
Really?
Yeah.
Even if they're healthy. I'm not asking you about the playoffs.
Yeah. I just don't. Their supporting cast, I just don't believe in.
Wow. So you almost think it's a Master of Illusion. You think their record's deceiving as it is now after this 7-game stretch?
Yeah, I kind of do. Wow. But
non-believer.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just a hater.
Two more. Here we go. I'm going to do this one first. Play out to play in award. Team currently outside the play-in that we feel most confident will make the play-in. So the realistic options: Brooklyn, Toronto, Houston, Golden State.
Yeah.
And both Brooklyn and Toronto lost tonight. I mean, I was tempted to pick Brooklyn just because I think the bottom of the East there, like with Atlanta, like if Atlanta makes a move, like they could get worse. Like Brooklyn could not even be that great and get into the 10th
wild
spot.
that Atlanta is 10th.
It is wild. Yeah, there was people very excited about them beginning of the.
They're 18 and 26, and they're 10th. That's what I'm surprised about. Not even that they're bad. Of course they're bad, but the fact that they get into the play-in at 18 and 26.
Yeah, get them out of there.
16 teams out of first place. 16.
So realistically, I think you have to go Houston or Golden State.
Yeah.
Both teams who I think could make a deal at the deadline that could swing this.
Yeah.
And both
Warriors. Give me the
teams
Warriors.
who I think are incentivized. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Warriors as well.
Yeah.
That one's a little easy at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think it's just you don't want to be the one to predict the downfall. But, Josh Houston's already did. He did that preseason. But I just think they'll climb back in it. I think that they'll get back in it. And my bold prediction will likely be wrong and that Utah will fall out. And it'll be Golden State, Lakers, Mavs, Kings, Pelicans, all in that mix.
Yeah.
Would be my guess.
Yeah, and with Houston, I think I was counting up their wins and losses. They're like 7-14 in their last 21.
Yeah. 3-7 in the last 10.
3-7 in the last 10. Yeah. You just wonder if they'd be willing to do a bigger trade. Like I keep seeing Rockets fans some Rockets fans starting to be willing to talk about Jalen Green trades. And I would be interested to see what this team would look like with someone else in place of Jalen Green.
Yeah.
I do think that would be interesting.
They'd be better. Yeah.
They'd be better. Okay, final one. Second half run award. Now, this is given to a team currently around or below 500 that will make a second half run. So you can go as high as, I would say, the Miami Heat. I think they're 24-21 now, if you really wanted to take Miami.
Okay.
But I'm very confident about my pick. And it is, I wonder if it's the same team, Orlando Magic.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, because listen to this. First of all, they were great at the start of the season.
Yeah.
And then they started to deal with some injuries. Franz just came back in the lineup after missing 8 games.
Mm-hmm.
From now until the end of the season, they have the 30th ranked schedule. The easiest schedule in the league. So, yes, it's been rough, but unlike Milwaukee's flipped. Like Milwaukee just had like the easiest part of their schedule, and now I think they might be number 1 in terms of hardest schedule rest of the season. Orlando's the opposite. So I think if they can get healthy, and they're also a team that has some trade deadline intrigue, if they could grab a shooter or maybe another playmaker, I really think that would make a huge difference to the Magic. And with this easy schedule, I mean, they got 3 games left against Detroit. Now, I do need Detroit to win 13 games, but still, at the same time, it is still Detroit. They have to lose 25 of them, Andrew. So that's why I feel confident that the Magic are going to make a second half run.
I think it's Indy.
Indy?
Yeah.
Are they? Where are they? What's their record right now?
24-20. 24-20. They're right there with the Heat.
They just beat the Sixers, though. That's cheating.
No, you qualified the Heat, though. Yeah. I didn't know that. I mean, you brought the Heat into the conversation. Give me Indy. I mean, they just got Pascal Siakam. They want to make a run.
Oh.
Is that cheating?
Oh. Well, they're 25-20 now, and they just beat the Sixers.
Yeah.
Let me see what their remaining strength of schedule is. They are 28th. So they have the 3rd easiest schedule. Yeah.
And they have like a legit, they have like a good team that it takes time to adjust, especially with a player as good as Pascal. Like it just takes time. But
so how confident are you? Like how high do you think they could go? Man, the East is starting to look so good.
They could get to 4, I think, reasonably.
And even then, like, dude, the Knicks are on fire. 8-2 in their last 10, won 5 in a row. Sixers are obviously great. Bucks, we assume, are about to be. I mean, they've been good, but they'll be even better.
Good. Yeah,
Cleveland's going to get their guys back. Pacers are right there at 6.
Pacers are good.
East is loaded.
The Heat are still good. It's loaded until it's not.
It is right now. That's fine. We can go with the Pacers.
Once we get down to because that's the thing with the East is that some of these play-in teams are just not scary at all. Like Chicago and Atlanta. I mean, those are 2 play-in teams right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Look at the West, though. Like the Lakers are 9th in the West as a play-in team.
Yeah, Mavs
and
Kings.
And the Mavs and the Kings. Like you look at the top of the West, who'd they be playing if they won? Oklahoma City and Minnesota. And you ask the Lakers, are you scared of playing Oklahoma City or Minnesota? They're probably like, no way. The West is the depth of the West, like the quality depth of the West is still just insane. Where like the East, it like falls off a cliff. It feels like.
Well, if we're gonna cheat, 25-20, we'll choose the Pacers. They are a better team.
Yeah,
and I think yes, the Siakam move is going to start paying off. I know it started off a little rough, but they get that big win tonight. So, yeah, that's the end of the mid-season Slammies. Congratulations to all the winners.
Yes, a team that we didn't mention at all for the mid-season Slammies is the Charlotte Hornets, and we're going to talk about them right after this quick break.
All right, Andrew, it is time for the Wheel of Fandom, our weekly segment where we spin a wheel, it lands on a team, and we become fans of that team for the next week. Last week, the wheel landed on the Charlotte Hornets, and it was a pretty entertaining week for the Hornets, who had several close games that came down to the final few minutes. Overall, the Hornets went 2-2. The losses were to Philly and Detroit. The wins came against San Antonio and the Minnesota Timberwolves on the road in a game where Karl Anthony Towns scored 62 points. The Hornets also made a trade this week, sending Terry Rozier to the Heat for Kyle Lowry and a future first. The Hornets are 10-31, 13th in the East with the 27th ranked offense and 28th ranked defense, according to Cleaning the Glass. Andrew, if our favorite team is the Hornets, who is our guest?
It's my guy, Richie Randall. He's a co-host of the Buzz Beat pod on Blue Wire. Richie, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. This is a repeat guest appearance. I'm excited.
That's right.
Yes, number 2.
Richie, let's start with Brandon Miller, who over these 4 games averaged 24 points, 6.5 rebounds, and nearly 3 assists on 57, 45, 87 shooting splits. He's in the midst of the best stretch of his season, and we see his usage is going to crank up over the next few weeks as Terry Rozier is gone. Where have you seen the biggest improvements in his game from the beginning of the season until now?
Yeah, I think just being more comfortable with the ball in his hands. I think that's one thing that Clifford has talked about since really he's come into the game as a rookie. He doesn't get sped up. Like he is very slow. Nobody can slow him, speed him up. I think the fact that he can play in the middle of the court out of the pick and roll, he still has got to bulk up, obviously, in those types of situations because he's going to get pushed off his path. And I think, over the offseason when he had mono, it kind of set him back tremendously in terms of that weight gain. And so we keep pointing to the next offseason as, okay, maybe this is the offseason upcoming that Brandon Miller put on some weight. I think that's going to be the biggest thing for him moving forward. But just in terms of his overall growth, he just seems so mature out there. And, like I said, like nobody can speed him up. He really is making shots from all over the court, above the break, in the middle of the court. He's got to get better at the rim, but I think that will come with time. And defensively, like he actually wants to defend. And this is a team that doesn't have a lot of good defenders. Like Cody Martin might be the one guy, but he's missed so much time this year, and he's coming back from an injury and try to work his way back in. So despite the fact that he does have like a wiry frame, he actually competes on that end of the court. So I would also say the defensive side too, just kind of showing up on that end. And for a team like, Clifford that coaches a team that is in the bottom 5 of defense, it's kind of sad to see, but at least he is buying in and wants to win and compete on that end. And I think that's the biggest thing that I'm seeing.
So everyone saw the scenes of Hornets fans just devastated that Charlotte did not draft Scoot Henderson at 2. I'm assuming that sentiment has flipped and the Hornets fans are feeling pretty good about that decision.
Yeah, it's so funny, like how you make a judgment, obviously on the day of the draft, but then too, like just in the rookie season as well. Like I don't think we'll know this until 2 or 3 seasons down the road. But yes, the sentiment has totally flipped. The people that were in favor of Scoot, obviously now are trying to favor Brandon Miller. I didn't have really a strong feeling one way or the other, but I did see the upside with Brandon Miller, and obviously Scoot Henderson, maybe more recently he's done better, but he just hasn't shot the ball well for Portland. And Brandon Miller, is the pick that the Hornets fans are kind of rallying around, galvanizing with. And it's funny how people, they change their tune on these things.
So I want to talk about LaMelo because, partly due to injuries, partly due to the team just not being very good, he hasn't been in the spotlight as much as he was his first 2 seasons. And statistically, he's putting up very similar numbers to his previous seasons. But one area he has improved substantially is in the pick and roll. In his first 3 seasons, LaMelo's points per possession in pick and rolls never got higher than 0.81, which was always below the 40th percentile. This season, he is averaging 0.98 points per possession as a pick and roll ball handler, which is in the 75th percentile, same number as Donovan Mitchell. What has changed, in your opinion, that has allowed him to become so much more efficient as a pick and roll operator this season?
It's an interesting question. I did not know that was the case. I have not seen anything like noticeable different. It might just be years of experience. And maybe, Mark Williams has been out for the past, 20 games or something like that. But like maybe playing with a guy like Mark Williams, second year under their belt, having more confidence that he can, play out of that. I think Clifford has really turned the reins over to LaMelo, and you see that usage just go up, way up. And in previous years, especially under Borrego, it almost felt like the offense was by committee. They had a lot of different guys, ball handling, Miles Bridges, and LaMelo Ball does play well off the ball, but I think, where you see his biggest strength is on the ball, pick and roll. And he's just so calm in the middle of the court. He can find, players. Does that include is it just him scoring or is also his teammates as well?
I think it's just so it's pick and roll, ball handler, points per possession. So I guess it is just points generated from pick and roll.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, I think the assists come into play too, but just drawing the attention. I think one of the biggest things too is with the pick and roll is the deep shooting for him. When teams go under, he has the range on that 3-point shot. I would say he's kind of up there with Trey and Steph and Dame and all those different types of players that can shoot from 26, 27 feet. And that's something that he's really good at in terms of, using that screen, using the advantage and just pulling up from deep. So his 3-point shot has done really well out of the pick and roll. And if those numbers include the passes, obviously he's a very talented passer.
Yeah, I saw his usage was like at 35%, like almost 36% or something, which is like clearly the highest of his career.
Yeah, I mean, they have turned the ball over to him, and they aren't looking back. And obviously, with Terry Rozier gone, it's only going to climb up a little bit more higher. And the biggest thing with LaMelo is just kind of staying healthy, and those ankles are just tearing him down, and he doesn't want to wear ankle braces, which is the funniest thing to me. Everyone's just like, okay, LaMelo, you got to at least try him. If they're uncomfortable at first, you got to at least try him because you are the star of this team, the star of Charlotte, and we can't afford you to miss 25 plus games every year.
So we talked about Brandon Miller, but there's another rookie who may start to see increased minutes in the second half of the season, Nick Smith Jr., who's been a regular part of the rotation since about mid-December. He's a really interesting prospect because he was a 5-star recruit at a high school, number 2 in the nation, but by the draft, opinions were just all over the place with him. There was some draft Twitter, shout out Ben Pfeiffer, who were still really high on him, but he ends up going at the end of the first round. What are your early impressions of his game, and have you seen the flashes of the high upside potential that people were talking about with him coming out of high school?
Yeah, I mean, he is very much an energizer off the bench, and I think that translates on both ends of the court. Offensively, he's doing really well from behind the arc. I did not know that was in his game in terms of just the overall efficiency. I think it will probably kind of go down over the course of the season and his career. But he can score off the catch. He can score off the bounce. Like he's very quick, but he's also not out of control. And so when he is running 100 miles an hour, he can still stop on a dime and pull up from the mid-range area or wherever he wants to get to. And in the flashes of that, this game that he's played, like it's just mostly just like shot making, pure shot making. He doesn't have much of an offensive game outside of that. So hopefully the passing comes in time. And then defensively, kind of like what I was talking about with Brandon Miller, the energy shows up there. Now, obviously he is only 6'2", a little bit undersized, but he is very pesky on that end, and he'll get under your skin. He will, probably defend maybe just 1s and 2s at this point, but he doesn't mind going up against a bigger guy and trying to get him, pushed off the block or pushed away from the rim as much as possible. And as we keep alluding to with the trade of Terry Rozier, Brandon Miller, LaMelo Ball, Nick Smith Jr., like this is the backcourt, I wouldn't say of the future, but you've got these young guys. Nick Smith is going to see a whole lot more minutes moving forward. And it's funny. I asked him in the beginning of the year, and he's such a level-headed guy about what do you value more, going down and getting playing time in Greensboro for the G League team, or would you rather sit the bench at Charlotte and kind of learn from the veterans? And he said he didn't really, he didn't care one way or the other. And he's not played at all in Greensboro, but the fact that he's now getting more minutes in Charlotte, you're starting to see that potential. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he and Brandon were AAU teammates at one point. So they have a connection there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nice. Yeah. So we mentioned the Rozier trade, which happened this week. Following that trade, the Hornets are now projected to have around $45 million in cap space this summer. Now, in the past, the assumption would have been that a Jordan-led team would go out and use that money on free agents to boost the current squad for a playoff push. Is that still your expectation, or do you think we may see like a very different approach from the new ownership group?
Yeah, I think it's a completely different approach. This is not a move that you would have seen under Michael Jordan, this type of trade where they're trading Rozier to get off of his salary. And obviously Kyle Lowry is just in there to match salaries. No one's expecting to play in Charlotte And so, they're hoping for that first round pick to convey as an unprotected one in 2028. But in terms of using that salary to kind of go after a guy like they did with Gordon Hayward this summer, or, using that cap space to sign a guy, I just don't see it. I don't see it at all. I think these owners are going to be a little bit more creative. They're going to be a little bit more progressive. Obviously, it's just one move under the new ownership, but I get a sense that it's going to be a change up from the previous regime. And you almost wonder, like, Mitch Kupchak, like, did he have any say in this, or the owners pushing this? So I do really like this. I do really like this trade for the Hornets. I've been pushing the fact that they need to get off Terry Rozier for a couple of reasons. One, because he is extended 2 more seasons after this. So you clear up that space. Kyle Lowry obviously expires after this season. But just getting that pairing between LaMelo and Brandon, that frees up the space. And, it puts Brandon in a prime position to play in the backcourt for the rest of the season. But it's also an opportunity for the Hornets to take on bad contracts and maybe get another asset or two in the form of picks. But I don't see them using it in the way that they maybe have used it in the past, trying to sign a guy like Gordon Hayward. So I'm hoping that they're doing a different, approach to this. And I think the new ownership hopefully kind of sees that too. Like, the previous stuff just didn't work the way that they wanted it to.
Have you heard any rumblings of how different to expect this franchise to look next year? Like, are you as fans anticipating like a new coach or a new GM coming in this summer?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone thinks that Mitch and Cliff are on their way out. Yeah, I don't know how much good it does to fire Clifford right now, especially if you don't have like a replacement in mind, right? I mean,
Right.
especially if someone's not available.
Yeah.
I mean, Coach Bud, if he's available, obviously, like, you can get him in. But I think they're going to ride it out this season. But most people are expecting there to be a lot of turnover. People also have, I guess, theorized that Mitch Kupchak might not necessarily leave the organization completely. He would just step into a different role. But yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be a new coach, new GM, all that type of stuff. And I think there's going to be turnover in the roster as well. I think, Miles Bridges and PJ Washington, there's something about the fact that, like, they've played well together, but I almost feel like, for the roster construction point of view, they need to move off one of those players. And Bridges is on an expiring. So if they are thinking about keeping him, considering all the drama that comes with that, they probably need to trade PJ. And I know his name has been floated out there a couple of times. Just little things here and there. I feel like the whole roster construction needs to be different, and I think the owners see that, and then it's going to start with the GM. It's going to start with the coach as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then for Hayward, what's the expectation there? Is the expectation that he'll be moved, bought out? Like, what's the thought right now with him?
Yeah, it's interesting because him and Lowry are, expiring contracts, $30 million,
$60 million total. Yeah.
And so it's going to be hard to trade both or buy out both. And I think with that new CBA rule too, where, like, these teams that are above the apron can't sign players that make more than MLE, which obviously Lowry and Hayward both kind of fit that bill.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of think that gives more leverage to Charlotte because, you could say, oh, Lowry wants to go to this team. Well, they're above the apron. We're going to trade you to somewhere else. Same thing with Hayward. The problem with Hayward right now, and I don't know if you view this as a good thing or a bad thing, he hasn't been playing for the past 15, 20 games. And does that lessen his trade value, or does that protect his trade value? I guess you can kind of look at it both ways.
Mm-hmm.
There's been rumors about a buyout, but I don't think both he and Lowry are going to be bought out. I think Lowry is almost like the first priority. Deal with him. If he is in a Hornets uniform after the deadline, it's not because the Hornets didn't try to trade him. Hayward, on the other hand, I've gotten indications that he likes it here in Charlotte. He has a family now. He has 4 kids, I believe, and they've kind of settled here. So whether or not, he gets moved to a contender, I think he will come back to Charlotte to kind of settle. I almost wonder, like, would he be a guy that would be open to taking a contract, obviously lesser than he has now, and being a veteran to Brandon Miller? Or does he really, really value winning to the point to where he wants out after this season? So it's kind of up in the air, I think, between Hayward and Lowry, but I think Lowry might be the first guy that gets moved before Hayward is even considered. And it's really hard to judge Hayward's value right now just because he's been out for so long. So I don't know how you guys view that. If a guy's been injured, is that like hurting his trade value, or is it more like, I guess his trade value can't get any worse?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you could get a whole lot for him. Like we discussed on our show, like Davis Bertans has a pretty attractive expiring contract, and then like the Thunder have young guys on their team that aren't playing a whole lot. Like a Trey Mann doesn't play a whole lot, and so it's like, hey, could we interest Charlotte in a Trey Mann with a Davis Bertans? You know, something like that, where it's, hey, the Hornets get to try a young player, and then Hayward gets to be on a team that's going to be in the playoffs. Like, to me, there's something that makes sense there. Sam Vecini brought up to me today, like the Mavericks as like another possible landing spot, and Grant Williams being a player that goes back to Charlotte, which he said that Charlotte had interest in Grant Williams over the summer. So like something like that, I think might make some sense for both squads. If I'm Charlotte, I probably just would rather have more expiring money and younger players than have like a long-term, because I mean, you already talked about it, like Miles Bridges, like having that problem with Miles Bridges, PJ Washington. Like Grant Williams is kind of the same kind of like tweener player. So I don't necessarily see a match there, but I don't know. I don't know if either of those like strike you in any way.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat where you don't want I'd rather have the young asset versus the money that extends 2 or 3 years. That's kind of the allure of trading Rozier. You get that money off the books.
Yeah.
He was not the best pair with LaMelo, or in my opinion, like they were both productive, but like when you paired them together, they don't scare anyone in a postseason series because they don't play any defense. Rozier is he can play the point of attack defense, but like it's not great. Like they always target him late in games. I just remember this one game in Toronto where Scotty Barnes ran this pick and roll over and over again, and it got Rozier onto Barnes, and every single time it feels like either Barnes scored on a drive or a pass. So I think getting off Rozier for that young pick, I think that's the way to go. That's why I'm always wary about like the D'Angelo Russell trade to the Hornets, because he's got that player option next year. Maybe he doesn't want to be in Charlotte and he'll decline it, but it's 19 million.
Yeah. So the Hornets are likely to have another high pick in this draft. I don't know if you started looking into prospects, but what kind of player, or maybe you guys have targeted a specific player, what kind of player do the Hornets need to target in this upcoming draft?
No, I'm not a draft guy, so I can't speak to specific guys, but I think the one thing when it comes to this roster construction, obviously there's 3 people on this roster that are considered like top tier untouchable players: Brandon Miller, LaMelo Ball, and Mark Williams to a lesser extent. And so when you think about those 3 guys, like you want to build around those guys. And so when it comes to drafting a high player, obviously you want to go with talent first, but I think there's a couple things that the Hornets fans, or at least in my view, that they need to kind of target skill wise. I think the Hornets need size across the board, especially at the wing position. Like I just said about the Rozier pairing with LaMelo, there was some difficulties on the defensive side of the court. So they definitely need size at that 2 and 3 position. I think they need some guys that have more on-ball ability that can break down a defense, because right now LaMelo is the only guy. And so even though he's gotten better out of the pick and roll, like Alex said, there's always an opportunity for him to play off-ball, because he's a good spot-up shooter as well. And, running some off-ball action for LaMelo is always a good thing. So I think those are the 2 biggest things, like size across the board, a guy that can play on both ends because of that size, and then somebody who can play with the ball in his hands, break down a defense, and allow LaMelo to get off the ball sometimes. Because if you're running the offense through LaMelo every single time, he has to expend all that energy on that end, and then defensively, it kind of wears him down. Which he's actually better like an off-ball defender, because he has those instincts, like those same instincts that he has on offense. Like he can use it to his advantage on the defensive side, but it's almost like you got to hide him on guys because he has this this high usage. So I would like a guy that can handle the ball a little bit more, and play alongside LaMelo, or run the second unit as well.
Sounds like a great landing spot for Cody Williams.
Never heard of him.
Cody Williams. He's J-Dub's brother from OKC.
Oh, really?
Plays for Colorado. Yeah. And he's shooting up the mock drafts. Could be the number one pick now.
He's really good.
There's a running joke on my podcast where you guys could probably list a draft prospect, and I would even say he's a prospect or not. I couldn't tell you. Even like the international guys, like you probably sound like you're making up something to me because I just don't follow it.
That's probably smart because it's a lot of work. Seeing like what actual draft people, the work they put in, while they also try to follow the NBA, is just like absurd to me. I don't know how they all do it.
No.
All right, Richie, thank you for answering all our Hornets questions, but it is now time to play Andrew versus the Beat. Hornets edition. This is our weekly trivia show where Andrew goes head-to-head with an NBA beat writer. This week, the challenger is Richie Randall from the BuzzBeat podcast. Richie, how this works, I've come up with 8 questions about the Hornets. Some are easy, some are very hard. Just warning you this week. 2 of them I think are extremely hard. So you're going to give me a number between 1 and 8. It'll correspond to a question. If you get it right, you'll get at least 2 points. If you get it wrong, Andrew will have a chance to steal for 1, and we'll go back and forth until all the questions have been asked and answered. So where would you like to start, Richie? 1 through 8.
You know, in honor of Rozier being traded, I'll do number 3.
Number 3. Okay. If Brandon Miller continues on his current pace, he will quite easily set the Hornets franchise record for most three-pointers by a rookie. Who currently holds that record?
Oh, man.
Oh, my God.
I lean towards 2.
Okay.
Don't
say them both because that'll help Andrew.
Yeah. I just thought of that. Okay. I feel like I'm going to say the wrong one. I'm going to go with Kemba, but I don't feel good about it.
Kemba Walker? That is incorrect. Andrew, you have a chance to steal for 1 point. Franchise leader currently.
I feel like it has to be a recent pick. Gosh, this feels wrong because I just don't feel like he was that good with the Hornets. I'll say Malik Monk. I just don't know though.
Malik Monk. What a guess, Andrew. That is incorrect. Richie, was that your other name?
No, and now I'm not even sure if my other name is going to be correct either. Devontae Graham.
Also incorrect. Would you believe?
Please.
In fact, the only Charlotte Hornet rookie to ever hit more than 100 threes, and Brandon Miller is already at like 72. He's going to
Devontae Graham.
No, that's what he just.
He just said Devontae Graham. No, I didn't hear him. I couldn't hear him for some reason.
You weren't listening, Andrew. It's DJ Augustine.
Wow.
DJ Augustine hit 108 3-pointers. Yeah,
that was a long time ago.
That was a very long time ago. Pretty cool. Pretty good trivia by me. All right, Andrew, board is yours.
Very good trivia by me. That was on the Bobcats. 1.
Oh, that is true, technically, yeah.
Well, the history carried over. We're good.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. Thank God. Okay, question number 1. Brandon Miller, second Brandon Miller question, is in the midst of the best stretch of his career, scoring 20-plus points in 4 straight games. Since the 2021 draft, only 8 other rookies have had a similar 4-game stretch where they scored 20-plus in each game, and we're going to name them all. So, how this works, Andrew will give me a name, then Richie will give me a name. We'll go back and forth till one of you stumbles. So again, this is since the 2021 draft. It has to be a rookie who had a similar 4-game stretch, scoring 20-plus in 4 straight games. All right. Andrew, who do you think?
Paolo Banchero.
A great guess. That is correct. All right, Richie.
Since the 2021 draft?
Since including the 2021 draft, yes.
I'm going to go Evan Mobley.
Evan Mobley? That is incorrect, which means Andrew gets the point. Now, the easiest one there, potentially, Victor Wembanyama. Yeah. Victor Wembanyama.
I didn't even think of this. Yeah.
Shaedon Sharp. J-Dub did it.
Yeah,
Benedict Mathurin.
Oh.
Jalen Green. Davion Mitchell. That was the one
I would have not gone there.
And Cade Cunningham, which that one makes sense too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Davion Mitchell.
Davion would have been. Oh, that's a wild one.
That would have been an amazing poll by
Yeah.
anyone. Okay, Richie, board is yours.
All right, let's go number 6.
Question number 6. According to Cleaning the Glass, the Hornets defense holds opponents to 5.3 fewer points per 100 possessions when this player is on the court. Best on the team. Who could it be?
I guess like sample size be damned with this question, right? Too like I mean, it's probably
Yeah, I wouldn't choose anyone who like has only played like 100 or 200 minutes. So it's a rotation guy.
Man, I might go over here. I will go with. I will go with Mark Williams.
Mark Williams. That is incorrect. Andrew, you have a chance to steal.
Tell me the question again.
I mean, basically, when this player's on the court, the defense is great, good, better than anyone else is on the court. You know, plus 5.3. I guess minus 5.3 for the opponents points per 100 possessions.
What about Cody Martin?
Cody Martin? No, Andrew. No. How many minutes has he played? He's played 311 minutes. I guess that would have counted. But no, would you believe it's JT Thor?
JT Thor.
JT Thor.
Wow.
I think he's regressed defensively this year. So that's
really,
yeah, I do.
Interesting.
Great name though.
Yeah, God of Thunder.
Okay, Andrew. The board is yours. By the way, we haven't even gotten to what I thought were the really hard questions. Okay, Andrew.
This is real bad. Number 2.
Question number 2. What is Frank Ntilikina's career high in points for a game? Now, Andrew, you get to choose who answers first. You can make Richie answer first and you go higher or lower, or you can answer first and then Richie can go higher or lower.
27.
27 points is the bar that Andrew has set for Frank Ntilikina's career high in points. Richie, would you like to go over or under that?
My initial thought was 29. So I'm going to go over. I'm just going to stick to my guns. Over.
You guys have amazing thoughts about Frank Ntilikina as his score, because his career high is 20 points. It is 20 points.
Wow. Weird things happen. Robin Lopez has like 30-something points as his career high. So I don't know.
And Davion Mitchell had 4 straight 20-point games.
Yeah, Davion Mitchell.
That's true. Okay.
Anything can happen now.
Okay. Well, the fact is, it was 20. Okay, Richie, board is yours.
I just know I'm going to pick one of these hard ones, but I guess it doesn't really matter. It could be easy because I'm getting these wrong too. Let's go with number 5.
Question number 5. This is this is really hard. All right, I'm just telling you up front, being real with you. Long twos are considered the worst shot in basketball, but Charlotte does not like you taking them. In fact, Hornets opponents only take 7.5% of their shots from the long mid-range, which is the second lowest percentage in the league. Which Eastern Conference team allows opponents to shoot fewer long twos than Charlotte? So basically, they're not letting teams shoot long twos, which ideally you would want teams to shoot long twos. But they're second worst. So who's the worst? It's an Eastern Conference team. I've narrowed it down to 14 teams for you.
When you say this is hard, it's almost making me think that it's like a good team because I'm thinking of the bad team. Okay.
No, it's just because like I don't know how you would go about answering that.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Because it's like such a specific thing.
Yeah. You almost, I don't know. I'm going to go with a good team, but a bad defensive team in the Eastern Conference. I'm going to go with the Pacers.
Very good guess. I like your train of thought. It's wrong, but I like the effort you put into that thinking. Andrew, what would you like to say? You can pick another team. Have you ever heard a team like we love cutting down on their long twos? That's our defensive strategy. We're not letting them get a foot within the 3-point line. We're not going to do it.
It's so weird. I don't know. Raptors? I just have no clue.
It is. Now, when I say it, maybe it'll make sense. The Atlanta Hawks. Kind of believable when you hear it.
Yeah. Sure.
All right. Andrew. Board is yours.
Number 4.
Question number 4. Ooh, I like this one. Mark Williams is currently averaging 9.7 rebounds per game. If he finishes the season at 10 rebounds per game, he will become only the 8th Charlotte Hornet in history to do so. Who was the most recent Charlotte Hornet to average 10 plus rebounds per game for a season?
Oh my gosh. The most recent Hornet to average 10 rebounds
per game for a season. For a season.
Oh my word. Who would this be?
Not a good rebounding team over the years.
I feel bad going back this far, but it's not Al Jefferson, is it?
Andrew, it is not Al Jefferson, which means Richie has a chance to steal. Who could it be?
I'm not going as far back as that, but I don't even know if this guy. I mean, he was a scrappy player, but I don't know if he got 10 rebounds a game. I'm going to go Cody Zeller.
Cody Zeller, not scrappy enough. Now it was someone after Al Jefferson.
Okay.
From the 2017-18 season, averaged 12.5 per game. Played in 81 games.
Oh gosh, I think I know who it is.
Who
was this? Dwight?
Yeah,
Dwight Howard.
Oh my gosh, what a goofball!
Oh man, Hornets trivia is fun.
That's a weird Hornets team. That was a weird Hornets team.
Wow. Richie, there's 2 questions left. I said there's one hard one left, but looking at them now, both pretty hard. So, which would you like to go with?
Let's go 8.
Question number 8. All right, Charlotte has 20 two-man lineups that have played more than 300 minutes together. Only one of those two-man lineups has a positive net rating with a plus 3.7. Who is in that lineup? Now, you do get 1 point per correct answer. So they have 20 of these two-man lineups that have played a lot of minutes together. Only one of them is a positive. Who is in that lineup?
I guess one person at a time, or do I?
Sure, yeah. Okay. Just do one at a time.
I'm gonna go LaMelo.
Richie?
Oh my goodness.
That is incorrect. Andrew, you have a chance to steal.
I want to mention Leaky Black, just because of the name. It just keeps popping up
in your brain.
In my brain, yeah. Just a Harry Potter character randomly plopped on the Charlotte Hornets. Mark Williams.
Good guess. That is correct.
Ooh.
Other name?
Miles Bridges.
No. Brandon Miller. Mark Williams. That's good though. You know?
Hello, Brandon. I should have gone Brandon first then.
Okay, Andrew. Last question. First dibs. As long as Kyle Lowry is on the team. By the way, this is the question I thought was also the second hardest behind the Atlanta question.
Okay.
As long as Kyle Lowry is on the team, the Hornets have 2 players, Kyle Lowry and Ish Smith, who are listed at 6 feet tall. There are only 2 other teams in the league who have 2 players that are 6 feet or shorter. Which teams are they?
2 players that are 6 feet or shorter.
That's right. So you got to think of some short teams.
Grizzlies?
No, I know what you're thinking of. Gilliard.
Yeah.
Shortest guy in the league, but no one else is that short.
I just...
It was a good guess. Richie, any names you want to throw out here?
Let's go 6 feet or shorter. Let's go. I'm literally just pulling one out of the hat here.
Okay.
Let's go Kings.
Kings. I bet Davion probably is. I can't remember. But they don't have a second. Any other names you guys would like to throw out?
I mean, I don't know, man.
Let's go through the league. The first team, Minnesota. Mike Conley, Jordan McLaughlin.
Oh, okay.
Tough. Really tough.
Yeah.
Houston, Fred VanVleet.
Oh, VanVleet.
And Aaron Holiday.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
So Andrew, you win Hornets week. Congratulations.
Yes.
I would say some of my hardest trivia questions
That was
that
really
I've ever
tough.
done.
It's like I'm leaving trivia confused. I don't feel like I won. I don't feel like I won anything.
I would say that the Hornets lend themselves to harder trivia questions. In my experience, having done these trivia questions,
Totally.
this is what I could come up with. You know,
In the Bobcats era, kind of confuses people as well.
that's true.
Yeah.
Great point.
Yeah, without a doubt. Hey,
Did you
go
guys see
listen-
that? Richie, did you see that? You may have. No, it wasn't you who posted it. There's a triple autograph card on eBay right now, and it's Dwayne Wade, Jay-Z, and Adam Morrison in a Bobcats uniform, all autographed on the same card. The guy's trying to get $1,000 for it, and I've been eyeing it. I don't have $1,000, but what a card!
Yeah,
Have
you probably
three
get more.
rings.
You get more if Morrison wasn't on there, but
Well, I could trim it after I get it and resell it.
Morrison off of it. Hey, go listen to the Buzz Beat pod. It's the best Hornets pod. It is the source for Hornets news. Go check it out. Richie, thanks so much for coming on the show.
thanks, guys.
All right, Andrew, that was Charlotte week. We still have 21 teams left to choose from. A mix of good teams. We got some terrible teams.
Some real bad teams in there, but a lot of good stuff in there still.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind getting Dallas. I feel like things are getting juicy in Dallas.
Ooh,
Band McMahon.
that's so funny.
Yeah, it's really funny.
So classic.
Okay, so we're gonna spin the wheel and see who we get this week on the Wheel of Fandom. This week's Wheel of Fandom team will be the Los Angeles Clippers.
Ooh, the
The
Clippers.
That's a
Very
good one.
interesting team. A very good team.
Yeah.
That team is
Who
awesome.
are they playing? Who are they playing? They are awesome. Ooh, we get. Oh, they're on a 7-game road trip right now, or they're about to start. And we're
Wow.
going to get the beginning of it at Toronto,
Mhm.
at Boston on Saturday. How is that not on national TV?
What a treat.
At Cleveland on Monday, another good one.
Yeah.
And then we wrap it up with our favorite at the Zards. Get to see the
Okay.
Wizards again, second week in a row.
Wow.
And if we hang on for Friday, we can watch Detroit again too. At
Hey.
Detroit.
There we go. Won't be hanging on for that, but should be a fun week. Get our guy Law Murray on here to talk about the Clippers. Hey, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We'll read it on the show. We would very much appreciate that. Hope you guys have an awesome weekend. Enjoy the basketball. And we'll talk to you guys again next week.